If there is one constant in the little people, big world universe, it is the fierce, unwavering love that Zach and Tori Roloff have for their children. Through every challenge, every surgery, and every triumph, they have shown the world what it means to be dedicated, protective parents. They have created a bubble of love and support for Jackson, Lila, and Josiah. And in that bubble, the role of a grandparent is sacred, a role of love, guidance, and respect for the parent's rules. But what happens when that sacred boundary is violated? What happens when a new member of the family, a step-grandfather, decides that he knows better than the parents? What happens when he crosses a line that can never be uncrossed? We have received a deeply disturbing report from a source with close ties to the family, a source who witnessed an event that has shattered the peace and created a toxic rift between Zach and Tori and Amy's new husband, Chris Marek. A fight so explosive, so personal, and so unforgivable that it has resulted in a shocking new rule that will change the family dynamic forever. Tonight, we expose the unaired fight that the network is desperately trying to bury. A confrontation where Zach Roloff allegedly looked his stepfather in the eye and uttered the words that have been brewing under the surface for years. This isn't just a disagreement. This is a battle for parental authority, and the casualties are the relationships within the Roloff family itself. If you believe that parents and only parents have the right to decide how their children are raised and disciplined, then hit that like button right now. Show your support for Zach and Tori. It tells YouTube that this story of family boundaries is important and needs to be seen. And make sure you are subscribed to LPBW Update with all notifications turned on, because the fallout from this incident is ongoing and we will be tracking every shocking development. All right, let's set the scene. Our source tells us this all went down during what was supposed to be a happy, casual family get-together. A BBQ at Amy and Chris's house. Everyone was there. The grill was going. The kids were playing in the yard. It was the picture of a happy, blended family. But underneath the surface, a storm was brewing. The issue, our source says, has been building for months. Chris, in an attempt to solidify his role as the man of the house and a patriarchal figure, has reportedly been making more and more suggestions about how Zach and Tori should handle their kids. Little comments here and there. Should he really be eating that? Or, in my day, a kid wouldn't talk back like that. Zach and Tori, in an effort to keep the peace for Amy's sake, have been biting their tongues and letting these comments slide. But on this day, Chris went from making comments to taking action. The target was Jackson. He was being a typical, energetic little boy, running around and hyped up on the excitement of the day. Chris, we are told, was trying to get the kids to calm down and sit still. Jackson, in his playful way, was ignoring him and being a little cheeky. It was an innocent moment of a child being a child. But Chris Marek didn't see it that way. He saw it as a sign of disrespect. He reportedly strode over to Jackson, grabbed him firmly by the arm, and lowered his voice to a stern, angry tone. He told him, "When an adult is speaking to you, you listen. You will sit down now, and you will be quiet." Tori saw it happen first. Her eyes went wide. She immediately started walking over, but Zach, who was closer, saw it too. He saw a man who was not his father put his hands on his son in anger. In that instant, something inside Zach snapped. He was on his feet in a second, crossing the yard and getting directly between Chris and his son. He gently pulled Jackson behind him and then turned to face Chris. The entire backyard went silent. Our source said you could hear a pin drop. Zach's voice was reportedly not loud, but it was shaking with a cold, contained fury. He said, "You will never, ever put your hands on my son like that again. Do you understand me?" Chris, flustered and embarrassed at being challenged, tried to defend himself. He was being disrespectful. He needs to learn discipline. And that's when Zach unleashed the words that ended the party and may have permanently destroyed his relationship with his stepfather. He pointed a finger at Chris and said the 5 sentences that changed everything. You don't get to discipline him. That is my job. Tori and I are his parents. You are not his grandfather, and you will never be my dad. You need to learn your place. The finality of it, the raw, unfiltered truth of how Zach really felt. It hung in the air like a thick fog. Tori immediately rushed over, scooped up a stunned Jackson, and started gathering Lila and Josiah. The party was over. Without another word to Chris or even a glance at a horrified Amy, Zach and Tori packed up their children and left. The betrayal was multifaceted. It wasn't just that Chris overstepped. He had displayed a form of physical discipline that Zach and Tori are fundamentally against. He had disrespected their parental authority in front of everyone. And he had done it to their son, a child who has already been through so much, all to satisfy his own ego. In the immediate aftermath, Amy was left to pick up the pieces, reportedly breaking down in tears after her son and his family drove away. She was trapped between the man she loves and the son she adores. A screaming match allegedly erupted between her and Chris, with Amy defending her son's reaction and Chris stubbornly insisting he had done nothing wrong. But the story doesn't end with a single explosive fight. The consequences of that day are far-reaching and are about to send shockwaves through the entire family structure. What Zach and Tori decided to do next is a move so drastic it serves as a declaration of war. It's a new family law, a hard boundary that Chris can never cross again. And it's a decision that will put Amy in an impossible position, forcing her to choose a side. In part 2 of this shocking report, we will reveal the official ban that Zach and Tori have placed on Chris. We'll detail the heartbreaking phone call between Amy and Tori where the new rules were laid out. And we will expose how this single fight is now threatening to derail major family events and storylines for the show itself. Stay tuned to LPBW Update. A family divided is about to become a family at war. Welcome back to LPBW Update. In part 1, we expose the explosive, unaired fight that has ripped the Roloff family apart. We detailed the moment Chris Marek overstepped his role as a step-grandfather, physically disciplining Jackson in a way that violated every rule Zach and Tori have. We left off as Zach uttered the devastating words, "You are not his grandfather," before packing up his family and leaving a horrified Amy in his wake. That single act of defiance was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a cold war, with Zach and Tori making a drastic move to protect their children and enforce a hard boundary that will forever change their relationship with Amy and Chris. The drive home from that disastrous BBQ was, we're told, a turning point for Zach and Tori. They weren't just angry, they were resolved. They realized that Chris's behavior wasn't a one-time mistake, but a pattern of disrespect for their parenting. They knew they had to take definitive action to ensure it would never happen again. That evening, they made a decision, a new family rule, and the person who had to deliver the news was Tori, in what our source described as one of the most difficult and heartbreaking phone calls of her life. She called Amy. Amy, who was still reeling from the day's events, answered the phone, hoping for a reconciliation. Instead, she was met with the calm, firm voice of a mother on a mission. Our source, who was briefed on the contents of this call, laid out the new terms of engagement for us. Tori reportedly started by saying, "Amy, we love you, but we need you to understand that what happened today was completely unacceptable and it can never happen again." She then laid out the new rule, the official ban. She said, and I'm paraphrasing based on our source's information, "From this moment on, Chris is not to be left alone with our children, ever. If you want to see the grandkids, you are always welcome, but Chris is not allowed to be with them unless you or Zach or I are physically present in the same room. No more taking them to the park alone. No more babysitting. No more unsupervised contact of any kind. Can you imagine Amy hearing this? Her daughter-in-law, who she loves, essentially tells her that her husband is now considered a potential threat to her grandchildren's well-being. Amy, we're told, broke down. She pleaded with Tori, saying Chris was sorry and didn't mean it. But Tori stood her ground. She allegedly replied with a sentence that cut Amy to the core. "I'm sorry, Amy, but our children's safety and emotional well-being are more important than Chris's feelings. This is not up for negotiation. This is our rule. You can either respect it or you won't be able to see the kids with him at all." The call ended with Amy in tears and the new law of the land firmly established. The ban was in effect. How did Chris react to being officially blacklisted? Not with remorse, but with indignation. He reportedly felt that Zach and Tori had disrespected him and humiliated him in his own home. He saw their new rule not as a protective measure for their children, but as a personal attack designed to punish him. This has created an even deeper rift between him and Amy, who is now caught in an impossible position. Every family visit is now fraught with tension. Amy has to act as a chaperone, a warden, constantly monitoring every interaction between her husband and her own grandchildren. The joy and spontaneity of being a grandparent have been replaced by a stressful, supervised visitation schedule. And the fallout is now bleeding into the show itself. Think about the upcoming holidays and family events. Pumpkin season. How can Amy and Chris host the grandkids at the farm if Chris can't be trusted to interact with them freely? Will they have to film in shifts? Thanksgiving and Christmas, these are supposed to be times of family unity. Instead, they will be filled with an unspoken tension, with Tori and Zach watching Chris's every move like hawks. Our on-set source says the producers are in a panic. How do they film a happy family holiday special when the family is secretly at war? How do they explain on camera why Amy is the only one playing with the grandkids while her husband sits awkwardly on the sidelines? They can't. So they will do what they always do, hide it. They will manufacture scenes, carefully edit conversations, and present a lie to the viewers. But we know the truth. This single fight over a moment of discipline has had a catastrophic domino effect. It has destroyed the relationship between Zach and his stepfather, Chris, created a heartbreaking rift between Amy and her children, forcing her to choose between her husband's pride and her relationship with her grandkids, instituted a ban that makes any normal family gathering a tense, supervised ordeal, thrown the filming and narrative of Little People, Big World into chaos. Zach and Tori drew a line in the sand to protect their family. In doing so, they exposed the fragile foundation of Amy's new life and proved that for them, the well-being of their children will always come first, no matter the consequences. The family is fractured, the trust is gone, and a step-grandfather has been put on notice. The question now is whether this rift can ever be repaired, or if Chris Marek's actions have permanently alienated him from the heart of the Roloff family, the next generation. The consequences of this day will be felt for years to come. Thank you for joining LPBW Update for this exclusive report. The drama you see on screen is only half the story. Make sure you are subscribed as we continue to uncover the truth.